welcome. In this video, we're going to be giving you some time management tips when it comes to bar prep. But more specifically, this is video 1 of a 5-video mini-series. And in these 5 videos, we're going to be giving you 20 bar exam time management tips to help you save time in every aspect of your approach. For instance, we're going to break down these tips in the department of your bar exam lectures, your memorization, your practice, specifically when it comes to multiple choice, as well as the essay portion, and then finally, some general time management tips. So we recommend you watch all 5 of these videos to get all 20 bar exam time management tips. Because after all, if you could have a little bit of extra time to take a break or do something not bar exam related, who wouldn't want that? So in this first video, we're going to be talking about some time management tips with respect to your bar exam lectures. And we specifically have 2 tips for you to consider. The first tip is if you feel comfortable with a certain subject that you're prepping for the bar exam, you should consider watching that bar exam lecture at a faster speed. So in other words, instead of just listening to that lecture at their regular speed, because most bar exam courses provide pre-recorded lectures, you have the ability to make them faster. If you make them faster, this means you're getting through that bar exam lecture that much faster, and therefore you've saved some time on the back end to do something else or to move on with your day and to get something else accomplished. So, how do you know this is something you should consider doing? Because I know sometimes speeding up the lecture makes some people nervous. They're afraid they might miss something or it's not necessarily what they should be doing. So if you feel like maybe I'm describing you, consider the following. If you find that you're primarily a visual learner rather than an auditory learner, you might want to try this. You might want to try speeding up your lecture. If you already know this subject well, maybe you took it in law school, maybe you did pretty well, maybe you took it more recently upon exiting law school, that's also another consideration that weighs in favor of speeding up that lecture. Lastly, if you find yourself sitting in that lecture racing to fill in the blanks rather than really listening to what the lecturer is saying, that's also a sign you might benefit from speeding them up and therefore, again, saving some time. Now, you might not want to speed up the lecture and therefore just take it in at the pace in which the speaker is speaking if you find you are an auditory learner. If that's your primary way of learning, then maybe this tip isn't for you. Or if you don't know the subject well, perhaps you didn't even take the class in law school, for instance, then maybe you want to listen to the lecture at their regular speed. Lastly, if you find the lecture to be very engaging and it's holding your attention and you're not multitasking or getting distracted, then maybe it's best to keep it at its normal speed. But if you find that you do get more out of it if it's sped up or if it's more engaging, or you just find that you can keep up and give yourself that extra time on the back end, then like I said, you're going to find yourself with extra time each day. Even if you speed up the lecture by 0.25, or if you put it at 1.5 times the speed, or even 2 times the speed, you're likely going to find anywhere from an extra 1 to 2 hours a day that you're saving from not sitting through a lecture at its regular speed. And that's a lot of extra time. Now, our second tip regarding time management as it relates to bar exam lectures is that you should consider skipping a lecture altogether if you feel comfortable with the subject. Now, I know that many of you just heard me and I made you uncomfortable with this tip. You're probably thinking to yourself, why would I ever skip a lecture? I thought you guys generally give tips that you shouldn't skip anything. Hear me out. Remember, the goal of the bar exam and prepping for the bar exam is to pass, not to complete your bar exam review course. The goal is not to check all of their boxes that they've laid out for you. Remember that these commercial bar exam courses are not tailored to you specifically. They're essentially a one-size-fits-all, which we know that's not how most people learn. So with that in mind, you know yourself best, and you have the ability to tailor your bar exam schedule to you and to what makes the most sense for you based on your circumstances. So for instance, maybe you took you took the class evidence your second semester, your 3L year, and maybe you did pretty good. well, then it's likely not a good use of your time to sit through 6+ hours of a lecture on evidence when you just took a semester-long class and did well on your exam. Now, if you're still not sure about how comfortable you are with skipping a lecture, something that you could do to gauge your readiness and if this is a good step for you is to review the outline of any given subject that you're considering skipping the lecture for. Try answering multiple choice questions on it, maybe trying your hand at an essay question and seeing how you fare. If you're doing all right, then I would say that's a sign you can skip the lecture. Now, if you find that there are gaps in your knowledge and there's things you're not understanding or you're having a hard time memorizing it because you don't understand something, then that's a good indicator to listen to that lecture. So just to recap these 2 bar exam time management tips as it relates to lectures is consider speeding up your pre-recorded lecture. And our second tip is consider skipping a lecture altogether, depending upon your comfort level and your specific circumstances.